Hello, and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video, we're going to keep looking at the Shadowmoor decks, and we're going to look at Overkill, which is the red-green deck. Let's look at the deck list. So, only 15 creatures, which is weird for a red-green deck. 10 sorceries, 4 instants, 2 enchantments, 5 artifacts, 24 land, mana curve off to the side there. Let's start looking at the deck. So, what's the theme of the deck? Well, it's weird for a red-green deck. We'll get into it. But yeah, you would think it would just be normal red-green aggro, and it kind of is. It kind of is. It does something a little bit different. Whether or not it does it well is up for debate, I suppose. But one of the rares of the deck is Mossbridge Troll, and this is like quite a big, fun green fatty to have. So 5 and 2 green for a 5/5. If it would be destroyed, it automatically regenerates, which is pretty good. Tap any number of untapped creatures you control other than Mossbridge Troll. With total power 10 or greater, Mossbridge Troll gets +20/+20 until end of turn. So that's pretty fun. It's an easy thing to do, I think, to hit, to tap stuff with power 10 or greater. To give this +20/+20. It is an ability you can do multiple times as well if you wanted to. Yeah, this is a pretty fun ability. The fact it's got automatic regeneration is also pretty fun. Yeah, this is like a really big, dumb, fun green fatty, I think, and a fun rare to have. Obviously, if you can find a way to give this trample, then you're smiling. But yeah, I think as is, it's pretty good, I think. We have 3 Farhaven Elves, so 3 and a green, 3 and a green, 2 and a green, 3 mana in total. For a 1/1. When it comes into play, search your library for a basic land, put into play tapped, and if you do, shuffle your library. So rampant growth on legs, basically, with a 1/1 attached to it. Yeah, that's perfectly fine, and this deck kind of wants to ramp up into land, as we'll see from some of the other cards in the deck. 2 Juvenile Gloom Widow, 2 green for a 1/3 with Reach and Wither. So whenever it does damage, it puts -1/-1 counters on things. This is an okay blocker, I think. A lot of things don't really want to attack into it and get permanently weakened. Yeah, I think it's okay. And a single Boggart Ramgang, so 3 hybrid red or green mana. For a 3/3 with haste and wither, very good, I think, actually. 3 mana for this, because hybrid mana makes it incredibly easy to cast. Like, you're pretty much guaranteed to be able to play this on turn 3. Obviously, presuming you draw it. But it having haste and wither is really good. A lot of things, again, don't really want to block this, just because they'll get permanently weakened by the wither. It serves as a good blocker because of that as well. But obviously, you want to play this and be super aggressive with it straight away. Yeah, really good creature, I think, and really, really wish there'd been more than one in the deck, and that honestly the deck had more stuff like this, but it doesn't, as we'll see. 2 Mud Brawler Raiders, so 2 and 2 hybrid for a 3/3, can't be blocked by blue creatures. Fine. Yeah, just fine. 2 Scuzzback Scrappers, so 1 hybrid mana for a 1/1 with Wither. So I suppose there's a whole cycle of these kind of like 1 hybrid mana creatures, like for each color combination. This I feel is one of the better ones, just because just having Wither, I think, makes it pretty good. Lets it kind of have an effect at any point in the game, really. Even if it blocks, blocks, say, I don't know, like a 10/10, and it manages to get a -1/-1 counter on it. I think that's something. It does something, some sort of lasting effect. So yeah, I think it's okay. And then 2 Tatamund's Duo, 2 and a hybrid for a 2/3. Whenever you play a red spell, it gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Whenever you play a green spell, it gets Forest Walk until end of turn. So I feel like this is one of the more, I guess, disappointing geos. I guess the Forest Walk is okay. Obviously, depends what other deck you play. But all the other geos typically have an ability that is always useful, whereas Forest Walk is a bit more conditional. So it's okay. I'm really surprised it's not Trample. Actually, that seems like the obvious choice to me. But it is what it is. And then 2 Scuttlemuts, 3 colours for an artifact creature. It's a Scarecrow. Taps to give you 1 mana of any colour, or tap to make target creature the colour or colours of your choice until end of turn. And like colours matters is like a big thing in Shadowmoor and Eventide. Obviously, a lot of effects care about what colour certain permanents are. So this is a way of kind of like affecting either your stuff or an opponent's stuff, just to maybe, you know, maybe dodge removal or deny bonuses or that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's okay, I think. So now we're moving on to non-creature spells already, which feels very weird in a red-green deck. So we have 2 flame javelins. I quite like the design of cards like this. It's a part of the whole cycle. So it's cast cost is weird. It's two red hybrid, like 3 of that. So you can either cast it for 6 colorless or 3 red or anywhere in between. I think it's an interesting way of designing hybrid mana to do this kind of 2 colorless or 1 colored. I think it's pretty interesting. So it does 4 damage to target creature or player, so it's pretty good burn spell, I would say. At 3 red, it's good. At 6 colorless, if you needed to cast it at 6 colorless, if you didn't get any red mana for any reason, I think that's okay at 6 colorless to have 4 damage. Yeah, I think this is okay. As I say, there's like a whole cycle of these in 1 in each color that has this same kind of 2 or colored hybrid mana. Which is interesting. This is like one of the more interesting things I think done with hybrid mana in the set. We have 2 puncture bolts. So 1 class and 1 red does 1 damage to target creature, and then put a -1/-1 counter on that creature. So this can kill an X2 or like permanently weaken a bigger creature. Yeah, it's okay as a burn spell. It's all right. It's a shame it can't hit players, but it's fine. And then we have 3 Jaws of Stone. So this is, I've just noticed I've used the Venser versus Koth version there with the expansion symbol. What a faux pas that is. Anyway, so Jaws of Stone. 5 and a red for a sorcery, does X damage, divide as you choose amongst any number of target creatures and or players, where X is the number of mountains you control as you cast Jaws of Stone. So this is kind of hinting towards the actual strategy of the deck. There's a green card as well we'll see over the in the next screen, I think, which will show this. So it's kind of building up, really. It's not trying to win with creatures, which, red-green decks we normally associate that as being the strategy. It's kind of build up a lot of lands, because we've had like Farhaven Elf, and I think there's a few other land ramp spells in here as well, to cast big spells like this, like Jaws of Stone. So of course, you've only got you've got forests and mountains. This is obviously much better in just a deck that is pure red, so you can get this effect as big as possible. But yeah, so I guess it's kind of like a burn spell. We can just divide the damage however you want. Normally, it's just going to go straight into a player. But, you can spread it out and deal with annoying creatures if needs be. So, in terms of green, so we have a single Gleeful Sabotage, so 1 and a green for a sorcery, destroy target artifact or enchantment. It has Conspire. As you play the spell, you can tap 2 untapped creatures you control that share a colour with it, in this case green, and when you do, you get a copy of Gleeful Sabotage and you get to choose a new target. So, I quite like these Conspire cards. I think, tapping down 2 creatures to get a copy of the spell is okay. I'm going to sort of say you don't actually have a reliable way to, because you don't have that many creatures in this deck, honestly. I say you got like 15, and like not all of them are green. You got the Scufflemutts, there's 3 of those. I don't think you had any mono red creatures, thinking about it. So, but even so, it's not like guaranteed. You've got quite a low number of creatures, I suppose. I mean, I say that, and then the next card is Howl of the Night Pack, which creates creature tokens, but this is so expensive. And this ties into the other strategy of the deck. So we had the Jaws of Stone, which is damage equal to the number of mountains. So Howl of the Night Pack makes a 2/2 green wolf creature token for every forest you control. So this is kind of your way of making a bunch of creatures. You've got 3 of these, which I think is a little excessive because it is expensive. In that you have got ways to ramp up into it a bit quicker, but it is still very expensive. It is very swingy when it comes down, because making a whole bunch of wolves is really, really good. Back in my old playgroup, there was a guy who had this as his win condition, basically, just ramp up into this as quickly as possible, and then just swing with a bunch of wolves. So it's pretty good, but I think having 3 is a little excessive. But I guess that is kind of the strategy the deck is going to go towards. But yeah, it's still a good card. A single tower above, so it's like Flame Javelin, has the 2 coloured hybrid. It's either 3 green or 6 colourless or somewhere in between. Until end of turn, target creature gets +4/+4 and gains Trample, Wither, and when this creature attacks, target creature blocks it this turn if able. So it's kind of like a very limited lure effect, only draws in 1 thing. But +4/+4, Trample and Wither is all pretty good. Admittedly, it is a pump spell at sorcery speed, which is not ideal. But the bonuses it gives is pretty good, I think. So this is okay for 3 mana. I think this is okay. Casting I think for anything other than 3 green would maybe not feel as good, but at least the option is there, I suppose. And then 2 Fossil Find. So 1 hybrid mana. Return a card at random from your graveyard to your hand, then reorder your graveyard as you choose. So this is not wonderful. Just because you can't rely on it, you've got no way of kind of exiling stuff from your graveyard to kind of like thin it out to definitely get what you need. I'm not a fan of this. It's really fun to have the reorder your graveyard as you choose, because I think that wording has to be there, just because there are like, this is like for older formats mostly, where like graveyard order matters for certain cards, so that's why it has to be, I guess. You're going to return a card at random, which means you're going to like shuffle the graveyard, and then that's how you determine how you get your card back, and then you reorder however you want. But yeah, I'm not fond of it as a card. It just feels like very weird to have this in red green, this kind of effect. I suppose the randomness. I suppose it is technically like a 1 mana spell that can get anything back, but I say you can't rely on it. So not a fan of Fossil Find. So the other rare of the deck is Prismatic Omen. So this ties back to the Jaws of Stone and the Howl of the Night pack. So 1 card's 1 green, it's enchantment. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So this is super good as enchantment for only 2. Basically turns all your lands into can produce any color of mana, which is really good, and gives them all the land types as well. So this would actually be fun in like a set that has domain as a mechanic, because it gives you instant domain when you cast it. But yeah, it is a good card. But I say, like, I think overall the strategy in this deck is like not obviously it's pushing towards like the Howl of the Night pack and the Jaws of Stone as the way you win, and this helps you by turning all your forests into mountains and all your mountains into forests. So those spells get you get like the full effect of them. But I don't know if it's a good enough strategy to worth dedicating like one of the rares in the deck to. I'm not. I'm not saying it's a bad card, because it is not a bad card. It's an excellent card, especially for like multicolored decks. But also this is the thing as well with Shadowmoor and Eventide. I'm going to go into this like in a later video, like a big kind of like Shadowmoor Eventide what could have been video. So this helps like with the multicolor and stuff. But I say like, there isn't really multicolor in Shadowmoor. It's all hybrid mana, which doesn't. It's not the same as normal multicolor. It's not like you're going to be. You've got like say Runes of the Deus. It's not like this is going to be sitting in your hand just because you have forest or just because you have mountains. You can cast it regardless. It's not like it requires red and green. So this is a good card, and just it's weird that it's in this set basically, where it doesn't really have much impact, I guess. But it is a good card. And then a single Runes of the Deus, so 4 and a hybrid enchanted creature. If it's red, it gets +1/+1 and double strike. If it's green, it gets +1/+1 as trample. So this pretty much turns anything into a threat, I think, giving because a lot of the creatures in this deck are at the most of them are red green. So getting +2/+2 double strike and trample is the priciest of these like god auras at 5, but like the effect is really strong. And it's a way of giving your Mossbridge Troll trample, I suppose. But again, there's only like one of them in the deck, so you can't really rely on it too much. And then we have an Illuminated Folio, 5 for an artifact, 1 and tap, reveal 2 cards from your hand that share a color, draw a card. Yeah, okay, kind of expensive to get down. And it relies on revealing cards from your hand, which you typically don't want to do, because you don't want to like reveal information to your opponent. And also, the thing is, like, when you need to draw a card most, maybe, when you have like a low hand salad, we don't have many cards in hand, you might not be able to do it because you have to reveal 2 cards, and you might not be able to do it. So yeah, the time when you need to draw cards the most, you might not be able to do it. So yeah, not too impressed with Illuminated Folio. And then weirdly, a whole playset of Elsewhere Flask. So this is just doubling down on like the whole like, we're going to turn all our lands into different types to benefit stuff like Howl of the Night pack and Jaws of Stone. So 2 colorless artifact. When it comes to play, draw a card, which is fine. Sacrifice it, choose a basic land type. Each land you control becomes that type until end of turn. So yeah, this is, I mean, the ideal thing is you would have all your land out, you would pop this, turn all your lands into forest, and then do Howl of the Night pack, and potentially get, like a bunch of wolves, 7 or more maybe, or Jaws of Stone. You'd do that and be like, aha, I've got a bunch of forest, but now they're mountains, Jaws of Stone, and then do 7 damage or whatever. So yeah, it's such a weird thing to like double down on, I suppose. Also, is it just me, right? This art, it looks like the bottler's wearing like a little necktie. I can't be the only one seeing that, right? Anyway, but yeah, so full playset of those to really double down on the weird theme the deck's gone with. So what could have been? I just think it should have just been normal red green aggro, because like there's so many good choices actually in Shadowmoor just to do straightforward red green aggro. And like I think that just would have been a lot better. I appreciate it's trying to do something a little bit different, but I think it's I think it's not great, honestly. I think we should have just gone pure red green aggro. We got so many tools to do that. So like for rares, you got Boar Tusk Liege, which gives all your red creatures and green creatures +1/+1. Rage Reflection is an enchantment that gives all your creatures double strike. Valley Maker is a giant that you can sacrifice mountains to do damage to creatures, or you sacrifice forests to get a mana boost essentially. Tassamunge Witch is a creature that gives all your stuff trample and +1/+0, I think. Scuzzback Marauders, like a really aggressive creature, has trample and persist, so it can come back for another swing essentially. Roughshod Mentor gives all your creatures trample, all your green creatures trample. Giant Baiting makes a 4/4 giant token with haste. Fire Spout does either does 3 damage to creatures on the ground, 3 to creatures in the air, or both, depending how you cast it. And Ember Gale just makes creatures unable to block for a 10. So like so many good tools that could have just been normal red green aggro. But no, they decide to like really double down on the Jaws of Stone, Howl of the Night pack, changing your lands into different things approach, which is, I say, it's just very weird. So in summary, I don't really like this one. Like I said, I do appreciate it's trying to do something a little bit different, but no, I just don't think there's really like the card pool to really properly support what it's trying to do. I think this should have just been, although it might have been like a bit more boring by comparison, like, and it would have, I think, maybe faded into obscurity a little bit just by being red green aggro. I think that's what it should have done. I think there was definitely more cards to just support being super aggressive, creatures coming down and just swinging and doing damage that way. Just what red green decks normally do. But that's just my thoughts on the deck after looking at it. What are your thoughts? Did you have this deck? Do you have any thoughts or opinions or stories about the deck or some of the cards in it? Please put a comment below if you do. I love reading those. But I'm going to be back next time and look at the last Shadowmoor pre-constructed deck. But until then, thank you for watching and listening. Have a great day.